There are two very concerning new bits of information with regard to TV licensing I've come across just recently. One is to do with Netflix, and the other one is something that one of you guys has emailed into me, which I'll explain in a minute. And one of which I think is probably in conflict with consumer law. So I'll come back to that in a minute and why that might be. And in the meantime, you'll have to put up with my voice because I've been struggling to talk for the last couple of days, which is really difficult and frustrating when you do a job that involves talking and you make YouTube videos, which involves the use of one's voice. So thank you for bearing with me. And if that's not worth a subscribe, I don't know what is. So let's get into it. So the first one is to do with Netflix. Now, Netflix are said to be, I say said to be because I don't watch it myself, but Netflix are said to be live streaming some events as TV shows. And since Netflix could well be considered a television broadcast company, if they do broadcast live shows, then you would need a TV license if you watch those live shows on Netflix. Because of course, watching or recording live TV or BBC programs on BBC iPlayer or installing any apparatus for any of that purpose, you need a TV license. This is where international viewers say, what on earth is a TV license? Well, a TV license is a fee that you pay to have a license to watch or record live TV. Most companies have abandoned it now, but alas, it is still active in the United Kingdom. So if Netflix live streams TV shows and you watch them or record them, if that's even possible, then you'll need a TV license to do that. But of course, many headlines are now jumping all over Netflix saying it's confirmed you need a TV license to watch Netflix, which of course, in the simplest sentence, is not entirely true and it is not entirely accurate. So why is that? Because simply having a Netflix account is not proof that you are watching or recording live TV. Therefore, you do not need a TV license just because you have a Netflix account. But of course, many thousands of people might well be running out, not physically running out, going online, to buy a TV license because they have a Netflix account. And they've read the headlines to think, panic, need a TV license if I have a Netflix account, otherwise you're committing a criminal offense. Well, you're not necessarily, because if you don't watch or record any of the live programs on Netflix, then you don't need a TV license. If you only use your Netflix account for the on-demand programs on Netflix, then you don't need a TV license because that is not what it's for. So anyone that is now panicking, thinking that you're committing a criminal offense by watching, I don't know, Suits or some other program on Netflix, I say that because that's probably the last thing I watched many years ago on Netflix. If you're watching a program on Netflix and it's on demand, then you don't need a TV license for that. It's only if you watch these live events. Now, I'm not sure what the live events are. I did do a quick search of it just now, and apparently there are some upcoming live events on Netflix, and it even says you can watch them on smart TVs, Android, iPhone, iPad, computers, browsers, and even game consoles. And there's a list here of upcoming and recent live events. The Netflix Slam being one that was live on the 3rd of March 2024. So there are indeed live events being broadcast on Netflix. So if indeed you are watching a live television broadcast program service on Netflix, then you would need a TV license for doing that. But again, if you're only watching on-demand stuff, then you don't need the license for it. And just so that you have my view on this very point, just having a Netflix account is not evidence that you are watching live TV. Having a Netflix account is not evidence that you need a TV license. Having a Netflix account is not sufficient evidence to prosecute you. Now, there's probably a watch history in the Netflix account system somewhere, which may well detail that you've watched a live event. That might well serve as evidence that you've watched live TV and therefore should have had a license. And if you didn't have one, then that would be evidence that you've committed the offense of watching live TV. It sounds ridiculous, but watching live TV without a TV license. I'm allowed to say it's ridiculous, but it is the law. I will tell you what the law is. The law says you need this TV license to watch or record live television program services. And if there's a live program being broadcast by Netflix, because of its size and its regularity, etc., it is going to be considered a live program, and in fact has been confirmed to be a live program service by television licensing and by the BBC. But just to reiterate, if you are only watching on-demand programs, then in my view, not that this is legal advice, you don't need a TV license for that. The second story is one that I feel might well be in conflict with consumer law. Now, someone wrote into me and said that they were trying to cancel their television license and get a refund because partway through the year they decided they're no longer watching live TV or recording live TV. They no longer have a need for a TV license, and therefore they wanted to cancel it and they wanted a refund. They were denied, so I'm told, a refund because they explained their situation and they said that they do have a television service which provides both live and on-demand programs. They did tell the officer from TV licensing that they have one of those services, but they didn't watch live TV. Now, I am told that they were denied a refund and cancellation because they have that service. Now, I looked up the regulations for this under the Communications Act 2003, and it is a discretionary power for TV licensing / BBC to cancel, revoke your license and thus apply a refund. But it's their discretion to do so if, and as they say on their website, one of the conditions might be that your circumstances have changed. So if your circumstances have changed, they may revoke, cancel your license and issue a refund. But in this particular case, my viewer was refused a refund, refused a cancellation because they had one of these television services. Now, just to be clear, regardless of what television service you use, most of them, as I understand it, provide both live services and on-demand services. But if you do not watch or record live TV, and you do not watch BBC programs on BBC iPlayer, and you haven't installed any apparatus for the purposes of doing any of the above, then you don't need a license. If you only use that packaged, paid-for service to watch on-demand programs, for example, you pay for, let's take an example, let's say you pay for Amazon Prime, and with it comes Amazon Prime Video, which now incidentally is supported by adverts. But let's say that you watch the on-demand programs on Amazon Prime Video, you don't need a TV license for that. That is not what the license is for. The license is for live broadcasts. So in denying this viewer the refund, using the discretionary power to revoke or not revoke a license, that might well be in conflict with consumer law, because if the term is unfair, in that it will deprive a consumer of something, of a service, etc., that they've paid for, then that might well amount to something that is unfair. And so this is a completely untested area of law, because the regulations within the legislation provide a power to revoke a license. It is not a duty for them to revoke the license if you so tell them that your situation has changed, and it is not a right for you to cancel the license if your situation has changed. You file the cancellation notice, and as I understand it, they have the discretion to revoke or cancel your license and apply a refund if that's appropriate. And in this particular case, it was denied. And as I say, that might well be in conflict with consumer law, but this is entirely untested, and unless and until it is tested, we won't know what the court's view is on that. My view at the moment is that that is certainly legislation that is in conflict with the Consumer Rights Act, in that it is unfair to the consumer if they pay for something and partway through they want to cancel it because their situation has changed, but they are deprived of the refund even though they're not receiving the service, even though the service is watching live TV. It's a bit complex, but I think that is in conflict with consumer rights law. But I suspect that if a case does go to court for this, it is likely going to be the case that the court would say, well, if you've paid for a license for a given period, then that is your choice, and it is a discretion by the BBC whether or not to cancel that license if you tell them that your situation has changed. But as I say, I think it is unfair if your situation has changed, you tell them and they refuse to cancel it, and you've paid them part of the fee, let's say half the year's fee, and they say they are just going to keep it even though you won't be able to watch TV for the rest of that period because your situation has changed. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that, and I'm going to stop before I can't talk anymore. So thank you for watching, and I'll see you next time.